This week, we're going to be talking about ecosystems. We're going to go through some things, and then I'm going to start with kind of a macro view of everything and what the whole landscape looks like, and then go, here's a simple place to start, and then get all the way down to this is the tool to start with that will allow you to start to understand the ecosystems and build your skills up so that all of this starts to make sense. And it eventually will allow you to jump from ecosystem to ecosystem.
So let's talk a little bit about what we did last week. I want you to think about this as building your AI ecosystem, which is really your foundation. Okay, everybody's going to build their own foundation that suits them. Then they're going to build the house they want on top of that foundation. Think of your house as your business and operating systems and the way you do business and all of that. So the goal as we go through this 8 weeks is to help you figure out what's right for you. And we're going to show you some specific things. So this is what the foundation is. There's 4 parts to it. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about the Claude environment. Why Claude over ChatGPT, Gemini, or some of these others? As of today, it is one of the primary front runners. And frankly, it is, to give you an idea, my laptop went down this morning. I'm trying to fix it using AI. And frankly, it's walked me through several different things. So I need something I can use that's easy to understand, that works well with me. That's what I believe Claude is today. Now, for the future, here's the key. The tools are going to change. What we build together is basically tool agnostic. Whatever the tools are in the future, it doesn't matter because what we're building today will be served well in the future. And we want you to get your hands on things and start using it because the way we learn today as adults, it's called engage, activate, reflect. That's a neuroscience process. What does that mean? It means that we engage with new learning, we practice it by activating it, and then we reflect what worked, what didn't work, what could we try differently.
It works very similar in an AI ecosystem. And everything I'm going to do as far as ecosystem agents, I'm going to bring it back to this because almost everything falls into one of these 3 categories. Again, the large language model you choose, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, which a local model, whatever that is, that's the brain. The prompts, the instructions are the thing that actually brief and tell the brain what you need it to do. The tools are how it actually takes action. So that could be like a go high level that you're plugging into an MCP into your email, whatever that is. There's a ton of different types of tools that you can plug into. And then the data is the context or the knowledge base that helps the LLM understand why it's doing what it's doing.
Yeah, so when you talk about a tool, Robert, what do you mean by a tool?
A tool is anything, there's multiple dimensions to it, but a tool is what allows AI to act. So if I have a large language model, all it is a massive amount of information that I can interact with. In order to get it to do anything, I have to plug it into a tool, generally through an MCP and API. There are multiple different types of connectors. That is what actually allows the instructions that I'm giving to actually turn into action. So when we're using some of the ecosystems that I'm going to be going through, it's giving you easy access to those tools, which I'll show you a little bit later on.
Okay, let me go walk. I had a client this week ask me or say to me, basically, Steve, we can't have a prospect list for nonprofits in this area because bottom line, nobody captures that information. So I said, okay, guys, hang on. And because the owner wanted to pay $10,000 or some silly thing to go buy a list from somebody. I said, just hang on. Let me figure out. So I go and I get into Claude and I'm in Claude CoWork, which is also cloud-based, but it's working in my computer as well. And the task I want to find out is I need to identify this target market. Can you help me find organizations that fit this criteria? And it's pulling context from the project that I've been working on with this client for a long time. Then I gave it some ideas on what good looks like. And by the way, one of the things Robert will mention as well, never let it come back with one answer and leave it at that. Just keep saying, you can do better, you can do better, let's go deeper, because that's how I went from 12 to 15 organizations to 50 to 326 organizations and 554 leaders for those organizations with their contact information. So I'm using that as an example. And then, you know, part of this process is to understand up front, what does success look like? And then you need to tell your AI as you're working with it, what does success look like? What are the rules you want it to follow? Have a conversation. Remember the back and forth I just talked about? That's the conversation you need to have with AI to say, yeah, I think there's more, or maybe you didn't dig deep enough, or whatever else it might be. Now, one of the things that I have found is extremely beneficial, and Robert's going to go into more detail on this, but you got to have a knowledge base to pull from, not just the internet and the large language model. Some of your own stuff can come into that, which is where I like to use CoWork, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But the first thing I like to do is ask it to create a plan. Then I ask it to improve the plan and enhance the plan. What else would you add to the plan before I try to get any kind of finished product out of it?
So this is a 2 AI review loop. So when I use AI, I am trying to get the AI. So let me back up one step. People tend to get lazy with AI. They want the AI to do the work that they need to be doing. So a lot of people are actually becoming slower at their work because they're trying to get the AI to do work for them that they should be doing. What we want to do is try to get AI to help get our brains going with ideas and get us to be more productive and more engaged. So this is a way that I've figured out to do that. And this isn't some super secret thing, but it's a pretty cool trick that I use still to this day. So what I do when I am trying to, let's say I'm creating a plan. I'll use Steve's example. If I'm creating a plan, I start by getting the AI to ask me questions. I go, this is what I'm trying to figure out. This is what I'm trying to create. This is the kind of scope of what I'm trying to accomplish. Please ask me questions so we can build out the most thorough version of this plan possible. I get the AI to start asking me questions, and then I'm explaining what I want. We end up building out that first initial result. What I do once it gives me that first kind of skeleton of the plan or first draft of the plan is I take that, that's the chat number one that you see right here. I take that and I put it into a separate chat. I put the prompt that I originally put into it. I even supplied with the attachments last week. I supplied some prompts that I actually use. And I tell the AI that this AI is just a feedback AI. It is not to execute anything. It's not to fix anything. It's not to reproduce documents, none of that. All it is doing is it is explaining to me and the other AI how to make what we tried to produce a 10 out of 10. So it's looking for gaps, it's looking for improvement areas, it's looking for things that we missed, and then it gives us all of those suggestions. I then read that entire suggestion and it gets me to think more deeply about my plan. I go back and put in the suggestions. I tell the other AI, don't accept all of these, push back. We're trying to get it to be a 10 out of 10. So now I'm getting the AIs to work collaboratively. Although I don't want them fighting against each other, I want them working together with me to get the best possible plan. So then it gives me feedback on here's what I would keep, here's what I would keep with changes, and here's what I would get rid of completely. And I would push back and go, don't do that at all. I then tell it where I would agree and basically go, okay, execute those changes and fixes. I then bring it back to the other AI, and you can go back and forth. Usually I'm only doing it maybe 2 or 3 times. The depth of output and the depth of documentation, the depth of presentations that I create, all of that, it improved drastically. It also helped me probably faster than anything else because I figured this out a couple years ago when I was trying to think through some different things. It gave me the biggest jumps in my learning about AI because sometimes I would be doing this back and forth to learn about different ways to build databases, ways to build AI, ways to interact with AI, ways to build prompts. That actually what you start to understand is using the AI to expand your own output. You can do the same thing for content ideas if you're doing social media posts and things like that. When you're prompting it, you want to talk to it very clearly, like you're instructing somebody who's working with you or for you, or like you're instructing a VA. You want to speak to it like that. What you do want to watch out for is, like, a lot of people get frustrated with it, and I use a microphone and actually physically talk to it. I don't type at all to it. And I've gotten way better outputs and just gotten in the habit of talking in sequence in the way I want it to prompt. The giving it feedback, you want to talk to it like you're being proper. Some people curse at it, some people get mad at it and start going, "You're an idiot," like doing stuff like that. That actually will mess up how it continues to work. It will, so you want to talk to it like it's another human, but like you're almost like in an office environment. You're trying to be very proper with it and you're trying to very clearly communicate with it, because it's not quite talk to it the way you would normally talk. It's talk to it as if you're really trying to articulate very clearly what you're saying to someone who doesn't always understand what you're talking about. So you're not trying to be too friendly with it. You're just trying to be very clear with it. So right now, there's been a large AI battle. There are Chinese models. I'm not going to get all into every different Chinese model that there is and all that, that we don't need to go that in depth. But the three big ones right now are Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. Gemini's strategy right now is they're going wide. So Gemini is trying to integrate with Apple, Amazon, all of the big guys. They are ultimately going to be the infrastructure AI. So they are trying to make it really easy to integrate with them. They are adding massive amounts of tools that make it very, they are going for enterprise, but they're going for enterprise in that fashion. So they're ultimately going to win that battle. There's no way ChatGPT and Claude are going to beat them for infrastructure. So they're taking that play, and then they're going to try to grab as much of everything else that they possibly can. ChatGPT is trying to be the household name, and they're shifting strategies. Now they're moving very heavy into government contracts and large corporations and all of that, because Claude started just taking the market from them. So they've shifted off of going for mass market to they are really heavily going into the business atmosphere, which they're actually coming out with great tools and great coding tools and things like that, because they've done that, trying to compete and keep up with Claude. Right now, Claude just took everybody by storm, which I think I mentioned the last time. Over the past 6 months, they've tripled and then doubled again. Like, they are just growing massively and grabbed a huge chunk of the market from ChatGPT, because they are obsessed on how to give practical application and tools to businesses, enterprises, individuals, the government, and their models are generally better at the type workflows businesses need. ChatGPT, in my opinion, is winning right now on just straight code and creative, where Claude is winning kind of, they're filling all those other gaps right now. And you can get into some weeds with the Gemini and all that, but we're going to move forward talking a lot about Claude, and I'm going to make reference to different tools in the other ecosystems and things that are in all of them. So because whether you use Claude or not, you'll be able to understand how to utilize these tools and the ecosystem, whether you use any of the three. The layer up from what we're going to be talking about is things like OpenClaw. That's the one everybody was buying Mac Minis for. There's one called Agent Zero. There's Crew AI. These are autonomous agents. This is, a lot of people are jumping into these things that are nowhere even close. This is where you lose your credit card number. It's because it has the ability to act and spread information without any sort of permission or control on your side. You can set up automations and you can do a lot of agent stuff in the other environments. This is really for developers. There's a lot of people who are even playing and selling this stuff to businesses, and they don't know how to lock it down and secure it properly. So business data and information is leaking out all over the place. So when people get scared about, I don't want AI to get me to get hacked or lose my identity or something like that, these are the things that actually cause that. Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, unless you're misusing them in some way, they don't cause that. They are very secure and really working towards keeping a lot of security. I'm sure there are some stories here and there where something's happened, but generally they are very tight, whereas OpenClaw is all the way out. So we're not going to be, I'll mention it here and there, but I'm not going to be talking about those layers. So moving into the next slide, we're going to be talking about the Claude environment. And I'll make reference to start, there's Claude Chat. That's what you're used to. That's where you can go online, right into a chat bot. You just put a prompt in, you can attach a document, do something like that. That's what everybody is pretty used to inside of ChatGPT or Claude. So that's what that is. The next ecosystem that they have is called CoWork. What CoWork allows you to do is it allows you to do those prompts and chats, but it allows you to actually interact with your own computer. It actually gives you the tools that you can connect to through MCP to do things in your browser, in your email, in tons of different tools. So this is where it's starting to allow the average user to more easily be able to start interacting in an AI environment and actually getting it to act and do for you, which is why you hear Steve mention it so much, is because he got into it and then started realizing, oh, I can actually leverage AI more effectively. It's not just a back and forth from me prompting and it giving me a response. It's actually now getting to act on my behalf, and I'm starting to understand how to utilize tools in this environment. And then Claude Code is where you do the same type thing, but it's in a terminal environment. The big difference between CoWork and Code is Claude Code is actually in my computer working with me. So it gets access to everything, and I can build out folders, databases, and I get a lot more freedom and control. Also, I have a lot more freedom in how I connect it. So I can connect it through what's called CLIs, which don't use almost any of my tokens, which is my preference if I have the ability to do that. Easier to connect APIs, easier to code, build software, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll be touching on certain things about Claude Code. If people have questions when we're answering questions, you can absolutely ask them. But we're really going to be honing in and focusing on CoWork, because for the most of the average users and people really trying to get a deeper understanding, even if you're trying to get to Claude Code, a lot of people that I'm training on Claude Code stuff, I go get into CoWork and become more efficient at setting up your folder systems, getting it to act, setting up little simple agents you can use through CoWork, setting up automations in there. Get used to that, because then you're going to be able to translate that into Claude Code. A lot of people are jumping into more advanced tools and drowning because they don't understand the infrastructure. They don't know how to set up skills or how to set up the MCPs correctly or how to prompt it right. So this is the good step from going from chat into you're actually managing and doing agents yourself.
Yeah, and I would just say for most of us, moving from Claude Chat to Claude CoWork is going to handle most of what we're interested in.
All right. So in using Claude, so I'll expand a little bit on this just so people can understand. So when you are using Claude Chat, you are going to use whatever model you're using. So you're using Opus 4.6, Opus 4.7, Haiku, whichever one you want. You can use that model. Typically, if I'm in Claude Chat, the reason I'm in Claude Chat is because I want to be using one of the Opuses and doing a deeper planning. I'm not typically in there doing much more than planning, or I really want to sit and do maybe the back and forth. I don't really do that inside of CoWork. I do CoWork to Claude Code. I do a different thing there, but I do chat to chat. And usually I'm trying to do a deeper plan or come up with a content strategy for the next year or 6 months or 2 months, whatever that is. So I'm doing deeper planning. So I'm usually using an Opus 4.6. That's typically when I'm using chats. I don't personally use chats much more than that. Or if I'm just asking quick questions, if I just want to do a quick thing and I don't need to do anything in depth. And then usually I'm using one of the secondary models in order to do that. So that's what Claude CoWork is going to allow you to do, is that folder interaction. You're still going to be using the same models. What you have to do in order to get CoWork is you have to get at least the baseline pro account, which is $20 a month. Most people who honestly start at $20 a month start using it. They go, this is incredible, and upgrade to the $100 a month because they're like redoing their folder systems on their computer. They're redoing their Gmail, adding labels to things, adding filters, doing stuff like that. They start getting things organized. A lot of what we're going to talk about here and there in this talk, and then a lot next talk, is going to be getting things organized so it's AI ready and it allows you to more efficiently work. So you're not having to do that, go find your stuff, put it in there, give it the context that you got to give it. It's taking forever. You're burning tons of tokens. So we're going to be working on that. After you get the pro account, you just download it to your desktop. You can just type download Claude to my Apple or Windows. Just download it. You're going to then have three options. Up at the top left, it's going to say chat, CoWork, and code. You're going to click on CoWork. When you click on CoWork, it's going to have to do some settings in your computer. On the Apple, it'll say, hey, go here and give permission here. It'll guide you right through it. If it's not guiding you appropriately and you don't understand what to do, just go into Claude and go, I'm trying to activate CoWork on my desktop and I'm running into a barrier. Can you help? Copy, paste stuff back and forth and you'll get to it. I haven't found anybody who hasn't yet, but you want to get where it's activated on your desktop. Then once you get into the CoWork tab, you're going to point it to your folders. So you get to choose where you point it. So if you have a project you want to work on and all of your documents are inside of there, you go, this is the folder we're going to be accessing. You give it permission to look in just that folder, and then you can start doing work, and you're doing that instead of uploading. It can also update and create documents straight into that folder now. So now you're starting to do an interactive back and forth with, so you're working on a book or you're working on a certain project, it can be updating the documents as you go, or you can be creating new documents to go keep that old version, create a new version for me. So that's what you're doing inside of CoWork, and that's how you get activated on your desktop. Just to mention this, ChatGPT does have a version of this. If anybody already has a paid account in ChatGPT, it's through their Codex system. In theirs, they don't have a feature like CoWork. You have to do projects in theirs and then attach the project to a folder, and then you're just working on that one project. So there's some limitations to that because what you're able to branch out and do in CoWork is a little bit more, but you can work in it in a folder system just like that. If somebody already has a paid ChatGPT, you can try their Codex version of this, and you would have to go straight into projects in order to get any sort of CoWork type features. Okay, we'll get a little bit into the folder systems. When you're setting up folders initially, and next week we're going to dive pretty deep into this, and I'm going to give you guys folder structure examples with files in it and MD files that you can be updating. But I typically separate it into a personal and a work. People can do other things. So if I have personal stuff, I have it segmented off from my work stuff because I do a lot of workout plans or eating plans or whatever. People do all kinds of different stuff in there. But you can have a folder called clients and then put all of your client information in there. You can do your content folder, SOPs. What you want to start doing is getting your information grouped into categories that make sense for you. You need to understand when you're working with CoWork where everything's located and how you want to do that, whether that's inside of a documents, and then inside of documents, you start layering your documents. I usually go create something like this is my Claude folder or my CoWork folder, or this is my work folder. And you can give it access to that whole folder, or you can give it access just to the individual folders inside of it. But start getting your information into some sort of a folder structure that makes sense for you. If you do that over the next week, what I dive into next week will really help you jump forward because you'll really start to understand the layering that you can do with that folder system and how you can have pre-built instructions. And as you do work, instead of having to go back, you're going to start learning how to create documentation. So the next time the AI goes in, it remembers where you were and is able to actually remind you. I have too many things going on at once. So I come in and go, what the heck was I working on? What was top priority? What was this? And it starts rolling out. And then I get 8 things going at the same time. But it's because I've gotten good at those documents so the AI can look and actually tell me, this is what you were working on.
When I did this, now I had 40 years of work, okay? And I had 12 or 15 flash drives and 4 old external hard drives and all of that. I asked it to build a plan around setting up a folder system for my work, and then I had it review my work as I kept loading things in and looking at it. And I came up with a 0, 1 through 11 primary folder system under one massive folder on the desktop with multiple subfolders under each of those. And it works. There was business development in one, there was sales in one, there was assessments in one, there was leadership development in one. It just depends on who you are and what you do. But that organizational process alone put me way out in front in my ability to access all of the stuff that I've done over those 40 years. So it's a really worthwhile process to do. And then my next thing was, gosh, I wonder if it can look through my emails and get rid of all that garbage that's in there.
If you're running a VA system, it could be instead of having a VA that manages your inbox, you're having a VA that's managing the AI that's managing your inbox, and you're having them double check things, check before the AI sends. I usually go, you want to do a certain level of AI integration with manual before you try to fully automate. A lot of people try to fully automate right off the bat, and it causes them problems because there's a bug somewhere in there, or there's a hallucination that could happen in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden it's sending something totally different than what they intended. So you want to confirm the system on somewhat of a manual level before you go into full automations.
Yeah, and think of this as a journey. Okay, you can always change things. You can always adapt. You can always modify. It's always going to be a work in progress. Okay. So don't get uptight about, gosh, I got to get it right up front or the whole thing's going to be wrong. That's the whole point of AI is to use its computing power to help you modify and adjust as you move forward. So don't get too uptight about that, but have a general idea. I only have four primary folders on my desktop. I have images, which is its own thing. I have my business folder. I have a personal folder, and I have a client folder that has all my clients inside of it. I only have four folders, but there are subfolders inside of those around the things that I do and how I want to set it up. And I figured all of that out by just prompting the heck out of Claude and saying, okay, what do you think about this? And where should we put that?